of the Internet of Senses Institute. I'm delighted to moderate this podcast on sight. I am Joel Garrison, a hyper-curious learner and lover of the sense of sight and the gift of vision. Because of his life dedicated to sight, exploring and expanding the realm of sight, we are excited to speak with Remco Veenbrink. His passion for sight led him to the Royal Academy of Fine Arts in The Hague. After graduating, Remco developed a successful marketing and advertising career as a director, producer, and creator for internationally renowned brands. Since 2018, Remco has been fully dedicated to developing and growing his company, VideowindoW. He is founder, CEO, and the creative mastermind behind successive versions of the VideowindoW technology. Before we learn about VideowindoW, Remco, would you tell us more about yourself and how you developed your passion for sight?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for the introduction. And thank you for having me on the show. I'm a Dutch person. I live in the Netherlands, grew up in a rural area. And my goal was always to go to the bigger city. So I moved to the big city, to the Royal Academy of Fine Arts. And there I learned how to actively look at things. And my major was photography. And yeah, photography, of course, I went out as a student with the camera and taking pictures and becoming more and more aware of how photographers not so much respond to what they see, but they see the composition happening in their head before it's actually there. So it's a very active way of looking at things, and that was that enriches you, for a lifetime. To learn how to look. That I think it's everyone should do that. So to have a camera as an alibi to spend time in looking. That's a great tool. And I remember as a kid, I had the camera, and I learned the power of the camera as well by directing my friends into situations. And we did that for the camera. And that was more directive, but in the academy it was leaning more towards documentary photography. So there you have little to no influence on what's happening in front of your camera. And there you really have to foresee all the elements coming together before they are there. And then I was one of the decisive moments from Cartier-Bresson, the Magnum agency. I was a strong believer of not altering your frame in the dark room, and that really puts you at a position where you have to look actively. It's only one moment, and yeah, so that has had an effect on everything I did afterwards. So after the Art Academy, I became a commercials film director, as you also mentioned in your introduction. I did a lot of nice things, and at some commercials I also picked up the camera again. It's just good to stay close to the visual appearance of your film, and that was more of a constructed reality. Commercials, that in that sense it's not so explorative. Little surprises. Everything has to be predefined, but still, sometimes you do nice commercials where active looking was still part of it. And that's, now that I'm an entrepreneur again, I'm trying to reintroduce also chance into developing our product in a way. So, of course, there's a lot more money involved. There's a lot of people involved. It's not such a solitary endeavor. a company. There's many aspects that are very strict as well. Business-wise, you have to. Those are things I had to develop. So in terms of who are you, where you come from. I come from an art academy, but now I'm an entrepreneur. So I have to learn a lot about things that are actually, they can be very creative too. I mean, business in that sense, it's not a fixed, nothing is fixed. That's what I like so much about this endeavor, that I'm learning so much about things that I thought, that is a very factual, that's a very strict part of running a business. But actually there's a lot of creativity in many aspects of running a company as well. And I think that is the strength that you need to be both agile, but also be very flexible, because you'll have a lot of challenges, and you need to overcome those in many different ways. Money is not always the solution. So you have a little money, so that's your challenge. Yes, of course, that is a challenge, but you have to find ways in a creative way. So that's why the conceptual thinking from the Art Academy still applies, and also to focus, to get back to sight, on your ultimate goal. Now, what is the true concept behind all this? And if we strip things away out of necessity or out of choice, I think it's always good to have that concept, the mission and the vision in startup world jargon. That you need to have that, because that is something that is overcoming all the challenges. That's where you can make people. Make them believe. It sounds like a trick, but to be truly authentic and convincing, you have to really be mission driven, from a deeper starting point. And I think that vision part that already started as a kid when I had that camera and I learned how to look at the world. Yeah, I think that's where it started. And at some point, I totally got rid of the camera, because I was doing 4 years my final exam. I thought, I now feel confident enough to look and no longer need that alibi of the camera. I can actually see and foresee things happening, but I don't need that kind of proof by collecting images in that way in a camera, storing them. I was very, very, very liberated, but still I wanted to hold on to a moment, because there is also memories in images. So it's not just the act of looking, but also it allows you to look back as well. That's kind of a melancholic, maybe, or sentimental aspect of collecting moments in a camera and in prints. But because I ditched the camera and printing, what I did is actually collect the objects that I discovered physically. And that in the beginning it was fine, but at some point I have a storage room with objects that I collected. What I did is I collected the object, and then I flattened that object, because that's what cameras do. They basically flatten a three-dimensional representation, a three-dimensional object, and then represent it as a two-dimensional proof, kind of an evidence of a moment that was in the past. And by actually collecting the physical object, and then by making a picture of it, I flattened those objects and then represented those in between two plexiglass plates, as if it was a picture. But then the interesting thing is that that object no longer referred to something that was in the past. Because if you take a picture of an object, that object is no longer the way it is represented. It's already older. So you hold on to a moment when you take a picture of something. But by looking at it, if you have the actual object there, there is no such a reference to the past. The object is actually there when you perceive it as an image. And that was a super interesting creative endeavor. Maybe it's vague. And I'm not sure if I totally uncovered what I was looking for in those efforts. So it's still ongoing. And I think, you know, that I hope that I'll never figure it out fully what I'm after there, because it's such an interesting creative endeavor. But that was the core also for VideowindoW. So the whole medium of cinema, where you have a projector and a screen on which you project an image. I thought, what if I could create a cinema without a projector? And I don't want to be in the dark. I want cinema to be part of life. I don't want to sit in a dark room. I want cinema to happen during the day in broad daylight. Can I take the storytelling out of the dark room and make it part of life? And that was the start of VideowindoW, where I did a lot of research on creating imagery with the use of daylight. And I looked in mechanical ways of creating pixels, basically. So there was a huge glass brick wall, glass stones. I don't know, you might be familiar with that. So it's basically a building constructional element, and it's a block of glass that is square, usually. And I thought, if I can use those square blocks as pixels, and if I can somehow influence the transparency of the glass, that would be fantastic, because then I have a daylight cinema, which is part of a building, and we can add a narrative to the glass facade. That is intriguing. So I looked at examples of the past. I went to Paris, to l'Institut du Monde Arabe, where they have apertures. So as in cameras, where you can stop down the light entering the lens. It's but it was a huge facade with many apertures that mechanically were opening up and closing the amount of light that would pass through, kind of shutters in a way. So light shutters, but it was mechanical. So it was at some point it broke. So I thought, so that's not the way. So we have to do it electronically. So we have to find other ways of creating a light valve out of these pixels. As I was building, or as we were building a set for one of the commercials I was doing, someone was welding construction, did a lot of car commercials. So we always had special rigs for the cars made. And I saw that the welding helmet, the very second the first spark ignites, the welding helmet turns black to protect the eyes of the welder. I thought, that's the technique. That's the technique I need. And then, long story short, a lot of expertise I found, and I searched for it. I mean, I searched and found. So we went into the liquid crystals, and we were able to actually create that first glass brick idea into a proof of principle. And that was the start of the company, because at some point it became so expensive to further experiment. It was it was a lot of work, but at some point also very expensive. And that's where I had a friend of mine who was into banking. He worked at a Japanese investment bank, and he said, "Yeah, that is an interesting vision. Let's see how we can create this. Let's try to make this happen." And we found some money. And then we could build our first proof of concept. So we have the proof of principle, that's the first step. And then we had a proof of concept. It's a bit bigger, it was a bit better, smaller pixels, so we could have smaller installations and already create that narrative. Before it was a bit abstract, already interesting though. And then, yeah, that's how we were able to create daylight cinema. The cinema in the public domain, because that's the next step. So where do you install it? You can have it at home, but that's not, then you don't reach your audience. So to have that in the public domain, yeah, that was the ultimate goal. And that, yeah, we're doing it now. So that is super nice.
I mean, that's totally full circle, but backing up just a little bit, did you have a particular type of photography that you enjoyed, that you like to spend your time going after? Was it all people focus, building focus, animal focus? What did you really like to take pictures of?
It's definitely people focused. It's heavily influenced by Robert Frank, also Allen Ginsberg, the poet. He also had super nice pictures of his friends. Yeah, it's poetry, it's photography, it's beatnik, so it's documentary photography for sure. Yeah, that is intriguing. I like that because it tries to enter into a world where you might not necessarily be part of, but allows you to explore that, and you learn so much by so that the camera, it's still that little alibi that kind of, it's really interesting. So you're not part of that scene, but because you have a camera, they allow you in, and that is yeah, if that happens, you have to gain the trust of the people that you're taking pictures of and with. They have to trust you, and they have to feel that you will that you're not there to abuse or use or misuse them. They have to, you building the trust. And I think that also with the company is the same thing. The team that we have, they believe that what we're after is worthy of the time and the endeavor that we put into it. And I think you cannot fake that. You cannot fake the trust, because they'll know, and they will not let you in. And they're rightfully so, because you're intruding into their circle. And that photography I always thought was most interesting, because you learn so much. Yeah, the journalistic photography, that was the approach that I liked most.
And you've given us such a powerful testimony on the connection between sight and vision, the power of the human mind, the artist, foresight, vision. Is truly wonderful the way that you have that in your mind, and then you're able to bring that into a reality. They say that, often used, that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So it sounds like you like to tell a story through your art. And
Yeah.
I can see how you get that from, the focus on journalist photography. I also read on your website that one of the things that Video Window wants, or compares itself to, is this stained glass art of the Middle Ages. Kind of explain how you make that connection to the present day.
Yeah, sure. What was so nice about the church and the stained glass windows is that it allowed people who couldn't read to still get the stories behind what was being told there, and at their own pace. So they could come back into the church and then look at the stained glass windows. It was yeah, like comic books almost. You could, it was very pictorial, and it's a narrative in the glass. And what is similar is that we use the daylight also as our backlight. So it's not an actively illuminated screen that we have. We just block light in the exact same way as stained glass windows do. So in the night, it doesn't work. You need that daylight to illuminate it. And telling stories unites people. And that's what sight too is. You say, hey, did you see that? You know, it's not that you really want to say, did you see that? No, it's hey, do we have that shared connection? Did you see that as well? Do you perceive it the same way as I do? And or maybe different. I see this, and then you have, that's how people connect. Sight is such a strong communicator in that sense, creating images is very much storytelling. One image can tell a story, and that is very powerful, and it also triggers your imagination. Actively looking and seeing things also gives you a sense of now and in the moment, even though something might be that depicts something from the past, but you experience it in the here and the now, looking at it, and that is a very strong catalyst. Is that the word? To get you into the here and now and have a shared experience. And that's why I also want to have it in the public domain, to create that shared experience, because that is very valuable. I was trying to, when I went back to all my old art books and my notes, I think one of the people that I started assisting was a commercials photographer, but he was also a fashion photographer, and he had a campaign in a bus stop, and it was just a fantastic picture. And he was also very much into Robert Frank and the Beatniks, and so that type of photography, the raw photography, he used in his commercials and commercial photography, and it was amazing to see all these great pictures in the bus stops. I thought, wow, that is the biggest museum you can have. Your prints are all over, and people can enjoy that. So because a lot of commercial photography is it's so one-dimensional, and I think you have a fantastic medium, and also with digital out of home, also the signage. You have TVs out there, the hundreds of squares of meters. And what do they show? They show very shallow stories. And hundreds of years ago, to get back to the stained glass, we already had quite deep stories going on in the glass. People could debate it. Hey, do you see that? Is this what it means? Is that what it means? I think it, and in that way you had a dialogue going. But with a lot of commercial stories, they don't want you to debate what is being told. They just basically say, this is what it is. And they try to make you believe into something, whereas I think you should explore. And if you figure out something by yourself, that's so much more convincing, because then it becomes part of you. Whereas I think if someone is telling you this is how it is, it's not your journey, it's someone else's journey. And that's what's happening with a lot of things that are in the visual domain these days, with a lot of social media stuff. It's copied stories, and there's little new out there that enriches you and expand your vocabulary, your visual vocabulary. You basically have very limited tunes. It all sounds the same, it all looks the same, and it could be so much richer. And that, I don't know, maybe that mission is too much, but we are trying to just show meaningful content. So we work with a lot of artists. So we work with the Royal Academy here in the Netherlands. We work with the Willem de Koning Art Academy, which is in Rotterdam. University of the Arts London. Those artists, they help in creating stories that are meaningful, that makes you think. We show poetry for glare control. So maybe explain a little bit what video window is right now, is that those pixels not only create an image, but as we need the daylight, it needs to be near the window. So at some point we got that question because we had blinds and shutters outside the window. And then the airport said, well, we need to maintain, a certain temperature inside. And if you want the shades to go away, can you prove that you can control the heat? So that was a fantastic opportunity to show that, hey, look, we not only create or transform your window into a communication platform, we can actually control the amount of light entering the building, the amount of heat entering the building, saving energy. And then our whole proposition became so much stronger because it helps save energy. Also, both in terms of cooling or heating the place, because in the winter you can allow more sunlight to heat up the place, but it also saves energy because you are less dependent on artificial lighting, because we're a transparent medium, and daylight will always be part of the basic illumination. So you don't need that artificial light, so you save also on that energy. So then it became a sustainable proposition as well. That's, yeah, then the meaningful content, sustainable, yeah, that's our goal. That's where we want to go. We want to enrich people, and we now have at Rotterdam The Hague Airport, one of our installations, we show poetry by the poet laureate from the Netherlands. And the poetry is, apart from the poem that people can read, it's also glare control. So it's also functional. So if you're not into poetry, at least you have a more comfortable experience there, because we control the amount of daylight entering the building. But it's just nice that people who might never have read poetry or never would are sitting waiting for their plane, and they read poetry, because it's coming by every 5 minutes. We have that poem coming up, and yeah, that is our content. And at the airport, Rotterdam The Hague Airport, the CEO also encouraged us to just show artistic work. So already have commercials everywhere. Let's focus on branding the airport. How can we? Because they just did a new terminal. He said, I like that. Let's have a huge screen for artistic endeavors, and yeah, that helps branding the airport, and it also helps them in regional support, because we show regional art academies work from students. We show regional art museums work, and that has therefore also it builds on the support from the region. So I think that art and artistic endeavors, that it has a lot of value, and I want to unlock that in the public domain. But you can show commercials, yes, as well. You can show commercials, and being in that business, I've been in there for more than 15 years. Some commercials are really nice. Yeah, they are really worth showing. And yeah, then also, if you together with that brand develop something that is made for video window, then it really all comes together.
Yeah, I mean, that it's such a win-win in so many different respects. I mean, you get to help, with climate control and be energy efficient. But I really love the part where you talk about the shared experience and the ability to bring people together. When you've put the technology out there, have you been able to elicit feedback from the onlookers, the viewers, the people there at the airport, and how do they feel about the experience.
Yeah, it's funny. The kids and young children, they respond in a far in a more impulsive way. So when we have kids and we show artworks from the students from the art academy, one of those films is showing horses. Kids, they point at it, say, "Look, mom, there's horses in the window," and it kind of, because the window is a bit it's rather big, and you look up, so it's really part of the construction there. So it's kind of impressive and immersive in that sense, and it's super wide angle. It's like a landscape. So all of a sudden there's like horses in the glass, and kids, they respond so well to this, and they really show the enthusiasm. But of course, there's other people that, you know, just sit in their chairs and they watch it, but they also might, you know, watch their phones. I mean, that happens. It's not that people are glued to our window, but it just adds, like I said, with that poetry, they get a glimpse of the poetry. Maybe it puts a seed in them, say, hey, words can actually be used in different ways. Words have more meaning than I thought. But what is very apparent is we have a game. So we have Pong, that classic tennis game. So we can turn that entire facade into a retro Pong game, and then you control the batons, the tennis rackets, with your smartphone. So you log in with the QR code, and then maybe I might make it sound too big, but we like to think that we turn the facade into a Wimbledon experience, because people are watching it, because they see two people competing. Those people might not know who is who, because you can log in from a wide, it could be hundreds of people watching the same facade there, and whoever logs in first and second gets the controls, and the winner stays on. So the winner can choose to wait for the next competitor, and people watch it because they say, hey, look, you know, and there is the shared experience again. That's what's so nice. That's why okay, now I'm philosophizing maybe too much, but when you're watching a tennis game, you're sitting there in the stadium and you're all watching the same thing, and you're right there, you're in the moment, it's happening right there and then, and that is a very important feeling. It makes you so aware of being, you know, alive, you know, and maybe it's too esoteric, but it really does something to people. They really, it brings a smile to their faces, and
I was
that's
going to
why,
say that.
yeah, it's funny, and that's why airlines are also happy with it. They said, hey, you know, we got smiling passengers, and smiling passengers are not gonna cause any trouble. They're happy, and it's such a small thing. And Pong, it's such a basic game. It was actually the first commercially successful console. That's funny, but it's such a the graphics, they are so simple. And that's
the feeling that I got, is that it would just make people so much happier, and it would be a stress reliever, and
absolutely
just make people have a good experience at a place like an airport.
Yeah, and the airport where people are waiting, so they have a long dwell time, and it's also a captive audience. So I've gone, so we're at the gate mostly, so they've gone through security, and then even I, you know, that when I fly, once I'm through security, it's a kind of a no man's land. You know, it's like, now it's my time, and because, you know, you made it, and especially when you're at the gate, you know, that is really because you do some shopping maybe, and then you show up half an hour at least, most of the time, maybe even more, before you're actually boarding. You're at the gate. Then what? Now, waiting. So to create a sense of belonging, a sense of creating shared experiences, that has such an effect on that group, that is amazing. And I don't need to take surveys or polls. It's just that the people, you know, you can see it. They have a shared experience, and that makes a team out of them almost. Yeah, super nice. So yeah, that's then I think, yeah, great. Why don't we have this at more places?
Well, Remco, I can see video window Olympics in your future.
Yeah,
I
that
just
would be
can't
nice. That would
imagine
be
it
nice.
not becoming something that is completely kind of takes the globe by storm. I mean, as we build more climate efficient buildings and take advantage of natural sunlight, it seems like we're going to have just thousands and thousands of cubic feet of space that would be ideal for this technology. It just seems like we just need to get the word out, and you could literally take the planet by storm. It's just really amazing technology.
Can I quote you on that, Joel?
Absolutely.
I'll tell my that's our vision. That's the mission. Yeah, we that's what we're building, but we need investors to who also share this mission and vision, because we've talked to investors that say, okay, yes, do you care what's shown on your hardware, and let's focus on as much revenue as possible. And I get that, but I think that there's a lot of value in showing art, and you just have to find ways of maybe making a revenue out of that, so that the investors are happy and see their money worth, but that there's still that mission that we can have meaningful content, so that we're not once again another commercial screen, because that, I don't want to have invented something that will be part of energy waste, because a lot of digital signage at this point takes up a lot of energy. That especially here in Europe, energy is scarce,
It's a
or very,
premium. Yes.
it's very becoming very expensive. Why not take something that is far more sustainable, and why not also use that moment to tell stories worth spreading? And
I think the
yeah.
I think the business proposition is, again, goes back to the happy customer. I mean, our environment plays such a role in our feelings, and any technology that can tap into the power of sight and make us happy and bring us together at the same time is just truly amazing.
Yeah, yes, that's our mission. And but of course we have a lot of discussions also with the media agencies, and coming from the commercial field, I've been making commercials a long time. There are fantastic commercials. I don't know if you're too young for this, but maybe the Guinness commercial with the horses coming out of the sea, that was amazing. That is, that I think we need to, or I hope we go back there. And those were really visually stunning, and also in a bit poetic way. It triggered your imagination, and very visual. That was very visual storytelling. And that is, if you have a facade, the size of a couple of cinema screens, you better be careful on what you show there, and how you turn that window facade basically into communication form. So there's more to it. It's a new language, because it's not just one screen. So that's why you've seen that too. We developed kind of wallpaper, if you say, because we if you have the entire facade, hundreds of squares of meters, there might be some areas, yes, we can show commercials, but other areas are more dedicated to flight information or wayfinding or any way of information that needs to be conveyed. What do you do with the rest? You still need that glare control, and you don't want to have a binary solution blocking out, just turning it gray. you want to add an experience there, and you have the opportunity to make that an immersive experience. And that's where we came in with rendering trees. So we render a tree that grows its branches and its leaves based on light sensor input. So we have a light sensor, say, whoa, there's a lot of sunlight. We need to bring down the average transparency of the glass to X, and then we render the tree up to that point. So the amount of branches and the amount of leaves that we will render based on that required reduction in transparency. And then we throw in a virtual wind. So the branches and the leaves, they will move, and as if you're in a forest, as if the canopy throws in the dappled light, and that creates a sense of nature. And that is a very soothing experience, and that's the kind of wallpaper that we create. And since it's procedural generative video, so it will always be a different tree. It's totally a chance start, and then from that seed, basically the tree grows and the branches grow. And we bring nature into airports. You don't see so many trees near airports because birds are very dangerous for the engines of the planes. So they don't want birds there. But people really like nature, providing at least the shadow, because the shadow is indistinguishable from the shadow that you'll see from a real tree. Of course, when you look at the facade, you know it's not a real tree, because it looks very photorealistic, but you know it's not a tree. But the shadow on the floor is kind of magic. It really has that dappled light, and that is that's really nice. And that's how we can combine all these elements, and that's what we call the future of glare control. So no longer binary, no longer mechanical, and that's where our long-term vision is. What do you want to see for your glare control? If we're now talking to a big manufacturer. I'm not sure if we can already mention it, but it would allow to also penetrate into the residential applications. So it could be your own window at home. And then the question, what will your glare control be? Maybe you want to see some news facts, maybe you want to read something, but it always is also glare control. And it could, I don't think you will read a book on your window. I'm not saying that's not so practical, but maybe it could be. When I read a non-fictional book, I can have those marks that I make, and then those marks are summarized, and then they kind of prompt me for those things, like, hey, this was something that you marked yesterday. Hey, look at it. And that's how you actually memorize, because you keep being triggered with the things that you thought were important from that book. And that's just in an email or in the app itself. Those kind of things. So we could add that. I don't want it to be a compulsive or how do you call that? I don't want to be that you have to look at it. No, it should be in a it's a soothing way, like
be something draws you in.
It's glare control, and hey, if you look at the glare control, there's actually a layer of information for you to look at or to receive, and you do something with it or you don't. But that is really at the end, we thought that would only happen in 5 years, but now there's a pull with a residential application, and that is it's a big opportunity. And then we want to create a marketplace, kind of an app store, where maybe because now we reach out to the artists ourselves and we reach out to the art academies, but maybe if we have an app store type of platform, people could upload their contributions and then get paid for that. because other people will use that as their glare control. And
Yeah.
if we curate it in a way that we have interesting content, I think there's a win-win-win, and that's like our long-term vision, and of course AI. We're now experimenting with having AI imagery for glare control.
You explained it as wallpaper. If I were to walk through the airport there in Amsterdam, would I be able to see a transparent covering on the window, or would I just be able to look out the window and probably not even be able to tell there's anything over the window?
Both.
Both.
The thing
Okay.
is, as we're part of the transparent window, you could look beyond it in the same way you can look through a gate. So if you
Okay.
focus on the gate, you'll see the gate or the fence. But if you focus beyond it, it kind of blurs out. Of course, we diminish the average. So we create a gray level to make sure that the comfort is there. It's glare control, so it's functional. But what we show, what is being depicted, you could focus on it or not. So you could still look at the planes. I mean, I as a kid, I love to see the planes. I wouldn't like to be fenced in by some technique telling me where to look. And that's so there. That is we're always transparent.
Wow.
Yeah,
That is.
and I like. I think I use the word wallpaper. Honestly, I would say it's art, but I it's a bit pretentious, and some people don't think it's art, so let's call it wallpaper.
I have some relatives that actually hang wallpaper, and they would absolutely tell you they are artists. So they are very much into their craft and how they put everything together. I want to give you an opportunity. I understand that VideowindoW's won some pretty significant awards here in the last year and a half. I wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of catch us up on those big successes that are coming your way.
We had a couple of successes, but one of the biggest was the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, and we won the Innovation Award, and then on top of that, we won the Best of Innovation, and that is really a big achievement from the whole team. And the funny thing is that as a commercials film director, I did a lot of films for a big electronics giant, and those films were meant to get prizes at CES, and I don't think ever any of those won Best of Innovation. I mean, it was not the film being judged, but it was the product, of course. But we spent quite some money in making films to explain the product. And now that I stopped being the director and have my own product, it was such a it felt so great to win the Best of Innovation within the smart cities. So that was really nice, because there's big companies, they send in like dozens of products just to win some awards, and we were it was overwhelming too. So the CES, there's hundreds of thousands of people, and we were with 4 people only manning the booth, and it was constantly media, because the media in that sense, they just look at the short list, like, hey, who won Best of Innovation? All right, we have to go there. So we had them lined up. So it was crazy. It was 4 days only, and it was one interview after the other. We were on the evening news in a lot of countries in Africa, with like the breaking news in Tanzania. We got a lot of information requests from Tanzania, and many places. So we were not prepared, to be honest, for that success at that time. That was that was fantastic. And this year we had LG Nova. So that was also, that's from the LG. And yeah, that was a big also, a big achievement, because there were a couple of thousand applications, and they only had, I think 40 companies that they invited to participate in a kind of accelerator, to see if there is a potential collaboration possible between the company and LG. And that is also really nice. And we've had many conversations already, and it's looking really interesting. And yeah, we already got connected to their display department, because LG is big. They do a lot of things. Yeah,
very big.
Yeah, it's
Those are amazing wins for you.
And there's more wins, but I think those were those were very significant.
Those are two significant
probably
ones.
Internationally known. Locally, we also do a lot of pitch contests, and yeah, that's also nice. And I think you should always try.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Remco, we know you're a powerful visionary. So as we wrap things up today, just tell us, where are you going as an individual, and where is Video Window going in the future?
Well, I think I think all I did as an artist or a photographer is explore, and that I want to always have, you know, as a core of our company, is to keep on exploring and being open to new innovation. Well, like I said, the AI, well, we were pretty early on already investigating how we could use that. So it's pretty far developed yet, but not yet published. But so it's those kind of new approaches. We loved it from the very first start. Wow, that's great, you know. But some people say, "Whoa, that's dangerous." No, explore. Keep on looking at things that, you know, amaze you, and be amazed. So that I think is also important. You have to allow yourself to be amazed, because there's a vulnerability in there as well. And you have to remain being humble and thankful for things that do work out. It's a lot of challenges, but I want to try to, because there's a lot of things happening for the better lately, luckily. And yeah, I maintain that you know, exploring, humble attitude, and then I don't think there's anything that's too dangerous or even too big to achieve. You know, if you make that agile way of working part of how you look at things, then yeah, you can incorporate. And that, I think that's why big corporates also want to work with startups, and our cycles of innovation are much faster.
Yeah. Remco, you are truly a blessing to this world. You are an amazing artist, and I cannot thank you enough on behalf of the Internet of Senses Institute for your time today. What fabulous, fantastic interview. So thank you, and always feel part of the community of the Internet of Senses Institute. We're glad to be associated with you, and look forward to seeing all the amazing things that you are able to achieve in the future. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Well, Joel, thank you very much. Thank you. It was an honor to be part of the site episode.
Absolutely.
Yeah.